Welcome to the Saturday Morning Nerd Show. We are live, hopefully on all the streaming services, social media accounts, but one never knows. Skynet's been doing its best this morning. Isn't that right, Chad?
Yes, it is. Very much so.
But I am your host, Marcus Blake, and joining with me is the Brewing Sailor, Mr. Brendan Smith.
Good morning, nerds.
Good to see
And
you.
Chad Womack from the Electric Jellyfish podcast.
Morning, Gold.
And since we are going to be talking about the Batman film and its place in the Batman universe, of course, our intro song had to be one of the greatest Batman songs ever.
And I've got an alternate version of that I don't know if you've ever heard that he did with Big Daddy Kane. I need to get that to you.
Really? I didn't know.
It's pretty sick. It's pretty sick.
All right. And speaking of Prince, I do want to reiterate this. We might have mentioned it last time on the podcast, but for those that are still talking about the Super Bowl halftime show, whatever controversy, blah, 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 blah. No, it was not the best halftime show. There's only been one great halftime show, and that was Prince. Yeah. So
you can
Purple
debate it
Rain,
all you want to. There's just no debating it.
Yeah.
Purple Rain, in the rain, they were like, Prince, you can't play an electric guitar in the rain. He's like, that's not rain. That's God crying because I'm playing the guitar so damn good.
right.
Told you. He was quoted as saying, "Can you make it rain harder?" I was like, "Yeah, we'll talk to God. We'll see if we can arrange that."
I'm sorry, if you're actually making it rain by playing Purple Rain, nothing tops that in a Super Bowl show.
No.
And singing the national anthem. I'm sorry, it just
Even Native American medicine men are going, this guy's good.
How
Yeah.
It's not good.
And considering it was my team who lost that Super Bowl, I mean, I still praise that as one of the best Super Bowls because of Prince. So,
Yeah.
all right. Now, but I do want to say, they just announced Madden 23, yada, yada. We knew it was coming, blah, 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 blah. Until you actually incorporate that as a feature in the halftime show, okay, on your video game, you're still not going to be as great as you can be.
Yeah.
All right, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. We've been off the past few weeks. We'll also be able to get our panel. We did record our panel from AllCon last week, talking about Batman and the Joker and the best combinations, who we think is the best and the worst. But before we even talk about the Batman film, which we do have a lot to talk about regarding that, we've got a bunch of other news and things to discuss. First things first, I just want to get this out of the way. This week's Sign of the Apocalypse. For the first time in 10 years of doing movie reviews and doing a podcast, I am praising Channing Tatum and his acting ability.
He is not the potatum anymore.
No. And let me tell you why. This past week, or this weekend, The Lost City, starring Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum and Brad Pitt and Daniel Radcliffe, is in theaters. If you don't know what the movie is about, it's kind of a cheesy ripoff of Romancing the Stone, where romance adventure novelist gets whisked away to find a treasure, and her cover model / dim-witted pretty boy thinks he can go rescue her, played by Channing Tatum. Channing Tatum, I think, played a caricature of himself. He was funny. He made me laugh. He didn't make me hate him in any way. I thought he was great. And the way that he played off of Brad Pitt, who was the plucky hero guy that can rescue anybody in the jungle, excuse me. I mean, everything worked. I'm not saying the movie's great, but it was funny. And Channing Tatum, he knew what he was in that film, and he played it brilliantly. And for that, I have a lot of respect for him.
Kind of did the same thing in Free Guy. I mean, on a much smaller scale. It was a little cameo, obviously. But
I was going to bring that up. Is I actually enjoyed him in that movie as well.
Maybe he's maturing and growing as a person.
Well,
has anybody seen Dog yet? Because I watched that over the other day.
Chad,
Yeah, I didn't want to spend 2 hours crying. So
no, yeah, I'm not watching a dog movie to do that.
It's
No.
worth your time, guys. Gentlemen.
My father died 2 weeks ago. I don't need to go through crying all over again, man. Like I
don't
got
think it's
enough
gonna
out
hit
for
you
a
that
year.
way. I don't think it's going to hit you that way. It didn't hit me that way. It's not that kind of a movie. It's more of a bonding thing.
Well,
I think it's worth your time, guys.
and I get that, but the last movie, the last dog movie that I watched, I did an early screening of the of Megan Levy with Kate Mara at the USA Film Festival, and I literally walked out of that theater crying my eyes out. And one of the publicists like, "Did you like that movie?" It's like, it's a dog movie. And I should have prepared myself. And I've watched it a couple of times since then, but I just can't do it. I know how I am. So I recognize the fact that it might be a good movie, but no, I can't cry this weekend. I'm too busy for that.
Well, it was touching, but it didn't make me cry. And movies like that in the way that, when it's not going the way you want it to go, do tend to rip me to shreds. But this didn't rip me to shreds. It just made me feel better.
Okay. Well, I might check it out a little bit later. But I always go back to Bill Murray and Stripes. You didn't cry at Old Yeller. We all cried at Old Yeller. So, but anyway, yeah, Channing Tatum was great in this movie. And if you're looking for a fun little comedy matinee, something to do this weekend, I do encourage people to check it out. I still think Romancing the Stone is a better movie, but this one was fun. And Brad Pitt
was this better than Jewel of the Nile?
Probably not.
Then that's pretty low bar, because Jewel of the Nile didn't do much.
I don't consider Jewel of the Nile that bad of a movie.
It wasn't as good as the first one, by any stretch of the imagination.
No. Maybe it's, I don't know. It's hard to really compare because, you do feel like this is kind of a cheesy rip-off of those movies. But it works, and Sandra Bullock is always at her best when she does comedy. And I got to hand it to Daniel Radcliffe. I have really enjoyed his movies post Harry Potter.
Post Potter.
Yeah. And he's really, really funny. He was great as the psychotic billionaire. And I do encourage people, if you don't think he has great comedic chops, you need to go watch Miracle Workers, which is on TBS. I also believe they have the past seasons on HBO Max. So.
Okay. I'll look into that.
All right. We can't really do a full review yet, but I will at least mention about a movie coming out next week. It made a big splash at South by Southwest. And it is the one with Michelle Yeoh. Everything
all at once, or something like that.
Everywhere all at once.
Everywhere all at once, yeah.
Go see this movie. It's a little long, but it is absolutely brilliant, heartwarming, funny as hell. Jamie Lee Curtis as the kind of rundown IRS agent. The only complaint I really had about this movie is it is a little long, but the sequences between realities and how they blended it all together, the choreography, and I always forget the actor's name. I need to look it up. I apologize, but he returned to acting.
Ke Huy Quan. That's where I was going. I was very pleasantly surprised to see he was back on screen again.
And they actually requested him, from what I understand. But geeks will always know him from playing Short Round in Temple of Doom.
And time for love, Dr. Jones.
Yeah, and Goonies. So
Goonies.
But he was brilliant. I just, from an indie movie standpoint,
as opposed to an indie movie standpoint.
I was about to say. Well played there. Good call. I see what you did there. Yeah, he plays Michelle Yeoh's husband, right?
Yeah. And
That's
also the one that tells her what's really going on about the different realities. But the choreography and the fight scenes with him, especially with the fanny pack.
Yeah, I got to see this thing. I got to see this sucker.
Chloe James and I saw it a couple days ago, and we both just couldn't stop laughing. But really,
Showing The Rock how to use a fanny pack, huh?
it's a truly beautiful and heartwarming movie. So it will be in select theaters on the 1st and in wide release on April the 8th. And I think it might be on premium streaming services too. Don't quote me on that. But if you do get a chance, check it out. It is worth your time. And I would honestly say that if this is not nominated for any major awards after this year, well, then they're just wrong. So, all right. Is that the other thing that we can mention? I'm trying to keep track of all of our embargoes. What we can't mention.
We can't talk about it.
So yeah, I still can't talk about the fact that you'll have to wait in about 2 weeks. The only thing I can mention is we did interview Mark Wahlberg for his movie Father Stew that's coming out in a couple of weeks, but we really can't say anything beyond that because we are under a strict embargo. But so, all right. In terms of stuff that has come out, am I the only one that watched the first episode of Halo on Paramount Plus?
I believe. Well, I haven't watched it.
Yeah,
Okay. I'm sensing not a lot of enthusiasm here.
My guard is
well,
just way
when
up.
the writers and producers come out and say we haven't played any of the games and are completely unfamiliar with the story.
Yikes. Red flag, red flag, red flag.
Okay. Yes. I can understand that. And
Let's just say I'm having feelings of trepidation.
Same here.
well, the only thing I can say about after watching the first episode is two things. It looks like Halo. They did a really good job of, getting the Covenant right and the weapons and Master Chief and stuff. And I like the fact that they brought the actress back who voices Cortana for this series. It looks like Halo. It's stylish, but if you have never played the games, if you don't know anything about the story, you're not going to know what the hell is going on based on the first episode. And I was talking with people about this last night. I almost wish for people who don't understand the lore that you kind of did what they would have done what Battlestar Galactica had done, where they made like a 4-hour miniseries to set up everything, to explain, gave you the intro right at the very beginning of who the Cylons were.
Little world building, little
Right.
exposition to tell you who everything is.
Yeah.
You could have even done it in anime shorts like the Matrix did with the Animatrix back in the day.
Yep.
Or what they did to help explain what happened in the 30-year period between Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049. They did these little shorts, a couple of them, some animation, talk about the Purge, how records were destroyed. David Bautista's character, why who he used to be and why he was hiding out. And then Jared Leto and how he took over the Tyrell Corporation. So I'm just, from that first episode, it looks like a stylish sci-fi show that I don't really know anything about if I hadn't played the games. So let that be a lesson. Maybe you should have dropped the first 3 episodes all at once. Just saying.
It seems to be a trend that a lot of streaming services are following. I can't believe they didn't do it with this.
Well, the Marvelous Miss Maisel season 4 just came out. And Amazon's got this new thing where they're releasing episodes weekly, but they release 2 episodes at the same time. So you actually don't have to wait week to week. And I think they're going to start doing that with The Boys season 3.
Yeah, they did 3 episodes at a time for Vox Machina, but that's a 22-minute show, so they were doing it in hour blocks.
Well, and then they do that with the last season of Bosch, where it was 2 episodes at a time. I believe they did.
I don't know. That might have been post Bosch. I don't remember.
All I know about the last season is Brendan and I got through that really quick and ran the hell out of it.
No, you know what? I think Bosch dropped all in one. I think Bosch dropped all at one time because I binged it.
Maybe. But yeah, I didn't know anything. And I get what Paramount Plus is trying to do, with setting up their series. I mean, 1883, they had the first 2 episodes ready. So you at least had that backstory before they start the journey. And with the first episode of season 1 of Picard, you got backstory. You knew exactly what had happened since the 20 years he was captain of the Enterprise. And it takes you right into the story of what that's going to be.
I was discussing the show with a friend of mine, and like yourself, Marcus, he's ex-Army, and so anything that's military people are always going to have opinions on.
Right.
And he was like, I'm really hoping some of my issues with the show are just pilot budget issues, because if the AK-47 is still a weapon of choice in 2556, humanity has seriously failed.
We've got some major concerns.
Right.
Like, we've got spaceships and powered armor, but we're still rocking AKs. And then the other thing was, he goes, I had a Chevy S10 and it was pretty reliable, but if it's still around 500 years later, that's impressive. So he was like,
as Samuel L. Jackson pointed out, that the AK-47 is the best weapon. Absolutely got to kill every motherfucker in the room,
except no substitutes.
Yeah.
Except
Yes.
a battle rifle, maybe.
But
Yeah.
it does. We don't.
So I'm hoping some of those budgetary concerns went away once they got a full season order. So we'll see in episodes 2 through 8, 9, 10, whatever, how many are going to be in this first season. But
And you know what? I get that sometimes you recycle stuff from other, kind of failed sci-fi projects. Firefly is a perfect example that all of the, Imperial uniforms were from Starship Troopers. And that's fine. At least they got some use.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to make it believable. I'm just saying, if I don't have my jetpack and my plasma or laser rifles in 100 years in the future.
Yeah. So we'll see if some of those budgetary issues get fixed as we move forward. But, if they're still rocking AK-47s in the season finale.
Well, if the pilot episode did one thing, it made me want to go back and play Halo. So, maybe it's just a huge promo to get people to, finally get an Xbox if they've never owned one, and get Game Pass and go play all the Halos. So anyway, all right.
Although one other critique he did say that was pretty funny was that they had the Marines wearing the ACUs, which only military guys will get. The ACU stands for the Army Combat Uniform. The Marines have never worn it.
Oops.
I know. I noticed that too, and I was like,
hell, even the Army doesn't wear it anymore because it sucked.
yeah. I did notice that, and I'm like, wow. And my first thought was, we know some military technical advisors that should have been on this show. Well, anyway, we'll see.
If honestly, I think my buddy, his name is Sergeant Alexander Van Arsdale, Staff Sergeant. Actually, he retired as, and I really think he missed his calling. If he lived in California rather than living in Maryland, he definitely would have made an excellent military advisor, because he's got this wonderful, succinct NCO way of cutting through bullshit and in 2 words telling you that ain't right.
Well, here's a great movie. Speaking of Mark Wahlberg, of why you need to have actual technical advisors on there. Lone Survivor. Well, they actually had Marcus Luttrell on set.
The guy who there's a story about,
Right.
the Navy SEAL. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually took the time to kind of train the actors, in proper movement, combat a little bit.
And I think that's why shows like Yellowstone and 1883 come off so well, because they do take the time to train those guys to be cowboys.
Yeah.
Everything's very, Taylor Sheridan talks about how everything's got to be authentic, or it's just not going to be believable.
Right. I mean, and sometimes you just got to take your cast and send them through a 2-week boot camp, like they did with Saving Private Ryan.
Captain Dale Dye.
He'll die. Yes, sir.
Or
He is a legend.
Mhm.
yeah, they did that with Band of Brothers as well. So
Yep.
all right. So speaking of season 2 of Picard, we're through the first 4 episodes. I am enjoying it. I think season 1 was better so far, but we'll see where this goes. It's great to have Q back. And it was nice to have a moment with Guinan and stuff, but I think it's just too early to kind of tell how this is going to pan out. I mean, how many times are we going to send people back in time and deal with some modern version of Los Angeles or San Francisco or whatever? That's about all I can really say about it. It's too early to really tell whether this is going to. So I just don't know. I didn't think it was going to be as good as season 1 because of what the story was in season 1 and all the connections to Data and sentient androids. But anyway, it's entertaining. That's what I'll say about it. But the thing that I am really, really excited for now that they finally dropped a trailer, Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, and we do finally have a date on that, May 5th.
Yeah, May's going to be a pretty awesome month this year. I'm not lying.
Yeah.
I just I'm hopeful for Strange New Worlds. My antipathy towards Discovery is well known, and we won't talk about it further. But Picard has been. And I honestly haven't watched Picard yet because I want to binge it. Because I have a feeling that I'll get too frustrated on a week-to-week basis the way Akiva Goldman and Alex Kurtzman write stories. So right. I'm just gonna wait and watch it and just gonna binge the crap out of it, and then I'll make my decision on it. So, this one, Strange New Worlds, it's more episodic. It's more back to the traditional story of the week, planet of the week type format. And so that one I'm probably going to consume as soon as it drops every week.
Yeah, that one I can't wait for. I love Anson Mount.
He was the best part of Discovery season 2. Like the only season of Discovery I liked was Discovery season 2, and it was mainly because of him and Ethan Peck. And even Rebecca Romaine as number 1.
Here's the funny thing about Discovery. We all agree that season 2 was the best because you had Pike and you had Spock, and Ethan Peck is great as Spock. But season 3, while it was okay, and I get what they're trying to do in the future, I still haven't even gone through season 4 yet, and I'm not excited to. I look at Discovery. To me, it's on the same level as like Voyager. Like I can enjoy it, but it's not my favorite. I just don't think it's as good as other stuff. And while I make that analogy, obviously Voyager is better storytelling because it was more episodic and you had a really great cast. But I'm just more excited for Strange New Worlds and the way that everything looks, even though it's more shiny and the cast. So we'll get to it. And I do believe that they have found their Captain Kirk. There was an announcement about that and how he will be introduced. So anyway, so moving right along, since we are talking about May being an awesome month, and if you're a nerd, then you should know why, for multiple reasons. We are coming upon the 45th anniversary of Star Wars. And in honor of that, that nerd show, I am pleased to announce, we'll be having our own 45 days of Star Wars. Something new every day leading up to the 25th, which basically will be a holiday for us. And of course, the most anticipated, besides Mandalorian season 3, the most anticipated series, the premiere of
Kenobi.
Yes. Now, is it safe to assume that we all did some hard geeking out when they finally dropped the trailer?
You think?
Yes.
And boys and girls that are listening to the show, that's what we call rhetorical.
Mm-hmm.
Rhetorical, the word of the day.
Can you say rhetorical? I bet you could if you tried.
It'd like cooler if you did.
All
Sorry,
these,
got my genres confused.
Yes,
all
you
these
did
little-
there just a little bit.
all these little references. Can you pick up what we're referencing? Yeah, whether it's the best thing that they've ever done, I think it's just great that we're finally getting a series, and it looks really, really good. And I do love the look of the Inquisitors. I'm not going to personally nitpick about everything. I just want to see a Kenobi story, and I just want to see him face off against Vader again, and hopefully the rumors prove to be true that we are going to get our Liam Neeson Qui-Gon Jinn cameo.
For those two reasons that you just rattled off, I think this actually makes this a little bit more anticipated than Mandalorian season 3 because
I think it's a lot more anticipated because
we've had longer to wait.
Well, not only that, but the Mandalorian has been the first universally accepted Disney content for Star Wars. But Obi-Wan tugs at the heartstrings of both the original trilogy fans and the prequel trilogy fans to an extent that we never thought we would see this again.
Right.
And now we're getting to see, and honestly, it couldn't have been timed more perfectly because this movie takes place 9 years before, 9 to 10 years before A New Hope. Ewan McGregor is now 10 years younger than Alec Guinness was when he filmed A New Hope. Everything about it, all of the stars have literally aligned for this series. And so, there's been, a couple of questionable design choices. Like the Grand Inquisitor just looks like a chubby human instead of a Powan. That's a little weird, I grant you. Hopefully the actor can overcome the choice of makeup. But looks like a little weird, I grant you. Hopefully the actor can overcome the choice of makeup. But, wow. And all of a sudden, I just got a really weird delay and heard myself. There's a glitch in the Matrix, folks.
Strange.
I'm looking around for an agent. Anyway.
Holy shit, there's two of them.
So, anyway, that was just a really weird delay, and I heard myself the last sentence. I stopped talking, and then I started talking again. Yikes. So I am really looking forward to this, and I think it is the most anticipated of all the Star Wars properties because, look, Mandalorian is great. Don't get me wrong. Book of Boba Fett was really uneven. You could tell it was a filler show. I think I'm looking forward to Andor more than most people. I don't think a lot of people are really super hyped on that, but I think it's going to. Yeah, I think that's going to surprise a lot of people.
I do too.
Ahsoka is probably the next most anticipated.
Agreed.
Just because rumor is that it's going to, it's going to redo the Thrawn trilogy, the original Zahn trilogy or some version of it. But then after that, you look at the movies. Okay, Rogue Squadron. All right, so it's Top Gun in space. Okay. But then there's no other announced movies. There's this Kevin Feige movie that's out there in the ether that, okay, Kevin Feige's doing a Star Wars movie. We know nothing about it. Same with Taika Waititi. He's doing a Star Wars movie. We know nothing about it. And knowing Taika Waititi, oh my God, honestly, I know what I want the Taika Waititi movie to be about. I want Taika Waititi to be about the adventures of Hondo Ohnaka. Because doesn't Hondo's character just fit Taika Waititi's style so perfectly?
I either want that or Tag and Dink are dead.
But yeah, so I just want and of course Hondo Ohnaka is be perfect for Taika Waititi's story because he's got this he goes, the stories I could tell you, so many of them true. It would just be perfect. But then other than that, you've got we've canceled 4 trilogies in the last 2 years, because the Rian Johnson trilogy ain't happening. The Weiss and Benohoff trilogy ain't happening. I think there was another trilogy that was just supposed to be 10, 11, 12. That probably ain't happening. So, Obi-Wan is definitely the most anticipated.
I feel like if you're going to, instead of doing a trilogy of, 10, 11, and 12, Disney Plus is just going to use the opportunity to do like limited series or, one or two seasons of something. I mean, I don't think we've seen the last of Ray, but I don't think it'll be a movie. I think it'll be a Disney Plus show because they've gone in all in on their streaming service. And with the amount of content that we're getting from Star Wars and Marvel, why not? And I think that's better.
Honestly, I think if you're going to do movie trilogies again, I think the best way to do it, like say all of these Mandalorian verse shows end in one big cinematic event, and then you do a trilogy of movies to end that event. So there's a tie-in between Disney Plus. You get people hooked through Disney Plus so that when they do go to theaters with these characters, now there's already vested, because there was no people, like, you could see the diminishing returns in the sequel trilogy. Yeah, Force Awakens one made $2 billion, but that's because we hadn't seen Star Wars in the theaters for 20 years. Then people got a taste of those characters and it dropped to 1.4 billion. And then, a lot of controversy with The Last Jedi, and then it barely made $1 billion, which for Star Wars is weird. So they're, especially for Disney and the cranking out of Marvel making $1 billion 4 or 5 times a year. So there was nothing to get people invested in these characters before we went. Now you've got people invested in all these characters through Disney Plus. Now you can take them to the cinematic experience, and you're going to have guaranteed huge success.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, you can even do like a tie-in event like they did with the 50th anniversary of Doctor Who, where you can have something premiere on Disney Plus, but at the same time, you have the option of doing it at the same time in the theater. I really enjoyed the fact that, I watched it when it was all around the world in a premiere at the same time on the BBC. Awesome. And then a few days later, went back and saw it again in the theater, which was even more amazing because, we did a costume promotion. We got to give away free tickets. And so there's a lot you can do, and we shouldn't miss an opportunity to have Star Wars in the theaters again.
Right.
It does belong there, but at the same time, you've also got to have writers that actually have a plan from day one and just start making it based out of nostalgia. And I still feel like another anticipated event, but maybe not as big compared to Kenobi, will be, can we get the 4-hour J.J. Abrams cut of Rise of Skywalker, where I'm sure it will fix everything that we hated, even if the movie still isn't that good?
Just don't know if I'm willing to sit through it, to be honest.
Yeah, same here.
I sat through a 3-hour Batman movie. I'm willing to sit through a 4-hour Rise of Skywalker movie on the comfort of my couch, is what I'm saying. So, and with that said, I'm going to segue into talking about the Batman and what we thought of it. And when I say we, I mean Chad and I. Now we talked about it in our panel at AllCon, and like I said, if you weren't there and didn't get to see what we talked about in its place, we're going to touch on that a little bit in this podcast. I'm going to start off with saying this. I feel like I'm probably in the minority about this movie, as I didn't think it was overly great. I thought it was good. It was okay. But I didn't completely geek out about it like everybody else when I saw the movie. And Chad, you are completely different, aren't you?
I wouldn't say that I geeked out over it. It's just, let me say, it definitely exceeded my expectations, because I didn't have very high expectations because I'm not the biggest Robert Pattinson fan. But if we haven't learned by now that when they cast these actors in these roles, we had our doubts with Keaton and we got proven wrong. We had our doubts with Heath Ledger and we got proven wrong. And this one, I'm like, there's just no way he doesn't have the weight. I don't know. There's just something that's off. And I will die on the hill that saying that there is still something off.
He's a terrible Bruce Wayne.
Thank you. Yeah. There's like, I never once bought him as anything but a kid that was waiting to go see his next 30 Seconds to Mars concert. It's just,
to me, I always thought he looked like Stabbing. He looked like Bruce Wayne, if Bruce Wayne was the lead singer of Stabbing Westward and got dumped by another girlfriend and was making another album.
It's like, are we watching the earlier part of Batman's career or the earlier part of Robert Smith's career as he's joining the Cure? It just.
And,
I don't know.
But
I mean, he had me convinced. He had me really convinced as a really good Batman, but just Bruce, no, it just didn't.
I will give him that. I liked him as Batman. I love the style. I finally a great noir detective Batman.
Does it ever stop raining in Gotham? Jesus Christ, did it ever stop raining in Gotham?
Like, of course the sun will only come out once he's defeated all the villains. Thank you. Great metaphor.
God almighty. I thought it rained a lot in Blade Runner.
Is it Matt Reeves that was the director of this?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll give him credit for making Gotham look bleak again. Because that's one thing Christopher Nolan got really wrong. Gotham just looked like New York.
Even though it was Chicago.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, the best Gothams, though, have been like based on Chicago, but have been, this like weird soup of like Chicago, New York, Tokyo, and a few other places. Like, so I really loved. I think the definitive Gotham is still Tim Burton's Gotham.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I don't like every design choice Burton made. Like you guys will hear me yell about how I hated the Penguin in Tim Burton and Batman Returns, but I just think that was one of the smartest things. The first thing I saw when I looked at the trailer, I'm like, oh, it's actually Gotham again. Okay, cool.
It's like, and I get what you're saying about the Nolan movies. I mean, really, you don't get, I feel like, that Gotham is bleak until, like, if you're in Batman Begins where he's in the Narrows.
Yeah.
Right. Like, but in like Dark Knight Rises, like, it's supposed to be, it's supposed to be bleak, and it's this like super clean city, even when it's abandoned. And like when you have the entire police force trapped in the tunnels for months on end, and apparently somebody's been bringing them food and showers because they come out, and aside from their jackets being slightly dirty, they all look perfectly manicured with nice beards, and
they all got their razors, and yeah. I mean, you're right. Looking at the style of those movies, it's easy to criticize.
And by the way, I'm not trying to criticize the movies as a whole, just that specific design choice.
Right.
No, I absolutely get that. And I don't personally disagree with you. I think the storytelling is amazing, and so it overshadows that.
Yeah.
I don't think the storytelling is as good with this Batman to where you need that bleakness and you need the style to kind of compensate for it. Really, my biggest complaints of the Batman is it's a very slow burn. It works to a point, but it's a 3-hour movie, and it felt long to me. Whereas I can watch any of the Nolan movies at 2.5 hours and they go by quickly, and I didn't even feel like the Snyder cut of the Justice League was all that long, even though it was 4 hours. In 30 minutes of slow motion could have been cut out.
That's the only point where it did feel long, was like, oh my God, he's using slow motion again.
Yeah. But I also kind of criticize some of the choices on Batman. For everybody that thinks this is the best Batman you've ever seen, Batman doesn't show up at the bad guys club, knock on the door, and ask, "You know who I am?" Batman lives in the shadows. He's probably breaking in. Just saying. So he's not really a Dark Knight, a mysterious character because he wears a mask.
I'll tell you what, though. The shot that keeps playing back in my head is his Darth Vader at the end of Rogue One scene where he's walking down that darkened hallway and he's only illuminated by the gunfire going off around him.
Right.
That shit gave me goosebumps. I was like,
no,
wow, that was cool.
There's a lot of great scenes in this movie. And then I love Zoe Kravitz as Selena Kyle.
She's wonderful.
You know, everybody talks about the hallway scenes and they always go back to Vader or Luke from The Mandalorian because those are flashy and have lightsabers.
Right.
But can we just give credit where credit's due on the hallway scene to the first season of Daredevil?
This is true.
Fuck
Yeah.
Because that was shot in one take. And when he's exhausted at the end of that fight and he's wildly throwing punches, that he's really that tired.
Dude, how about the prison hallway scene where they try to kill Frank Castle? Prison.
Yeah.
Yes, I understand that. Yes, but I'm just saying season 1 of Daredevil came first. That's the original. That is the progenitor of the trope because it is now a trope. The hallway scene is now a trope.
Right. There's a lot to like about this movie. I'm not saying that there isn't, and I think Matt Reeves deserves to be able to do a trilogy and see how this Batman, is in the overall universe. But like Chad brought up, and you mentioned before, Robert Pattinson sucks as Bruce Wayne, and I know people are going to give him a pass and saying that, well, he's trying to figure it out and doesn't know how to be Bruce Wayne yet. Well, Christian Bale kind of figured that out in his first Batman movie by one suggestion by Alfred about billionaire playboys have to be able to do something
right.
to nocturnal activities.
And I thought that was a great choice too, because you had to show how not only did the actor have to figure it out, but the character had to figure it out.
Right.
And you wrote that right into the movie, and it was perfect.
And you know what? It took 5 minutes in a 2.5-hour movie to give you that transition.
And the next thing you know, he's walking, he's driving in a freaking Lamborghini, and he steps out with a supermodel in one seat and another supermodel as lap because it's only a 2-seater.
Well, if this is not the best Bruce Wayne Playboy move, this is one thing they nailed in Batman Begins is when they are telling him the girls have to get out, it's not a pool, and he's like, well, writes the check, hands it to the guy, I'm buying this hotel, and we're going to set some new rules on that. That is such a smooth Playboy.
That's a gank move. That's a pimp.
Yeah.
There.
You've got gothic emo Bruce Wayne here who never smiles at anything, and it's just like
who's listening to stabbing Westward in The Cure and pining over a girlfriend that left him in junior high school.
But I will give them credit because we finally got to see the black makeup around his eyes left on when he takes off the fucking mask.
Yeah.
His hair's messed up. He's sweaty. Finally, they did that. Finally, they got that right. It didn't miraculously disappear like Keaton's did at the end of Batman Returns. I'm like, there's the black. Now it's gone. Bullshit.
Can we explain how that bat trick works?
No shit. That always bothered me. That has always bothered me.
Is there some R&D project at Wayne Enterprises that hasn't been put into effect yet that explains that?
Yeah, no.
The style is great, and there's a lot to like. I mean, if there is one overall thing that I love, we finally got a true psychotic Riddler. And Paul deserves an award for that. He nailed it. But
he's writing a graphic novel for them now too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and I love Paul Dano as an actor. I mean, yeah, he did his little cheesy kind of teenage movies like The Girl, Next Door and other things, but he is a character actor. If you don't know what I mean, then you've obviously never watched There Will Be Blood with Daniel Day-Lewis. Or, and speaking of Daniel Radcliffe being having great comedic chops, it's a strange movie, but Swiss Army Man with Paul Dano and Daniel Radcliffe, that's another one that people should check out. You probably won't watch it again, but they're funny together. And this weird, I have a dead guy and he's like a mannequin type thing. Paul Dano was a great actor and has had a lot of great projects. So he was perfect in this movie. But anyway, Chad, I know we talked about it during the panel. Is this your favorite Batman movie? Or
No.
what would,
No.
okay.
No. Did I like it? Yes. Was I pleasantly surprised? Yes. Does it supplant what I think is the quintessential Batman film in The Dark Knight? No. But the one thing I will give it, like I said at the top of this discussion, is that it exceeded my expectations. He exceeded my expectations in the role of Batman, but he pretty much landed where I thought he would with Bruce Wayne, because it's weird to me that it's so hard to get that particular balance right, depending on who's portraying them.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's a subtle difference either.
No,
They're intentionally the yin and yang of one's own, personal psyche. So it's like you approach it as literally two different characters.
Yeah.
There's the Batman and then there's Bruce Wayne.
Right.
Well,
Keaton got the balance right. Kilmer was, I think, a better Bruce Wayne than he was a Batman.
Agreed.
Clooney we won't even talk about.
Agreed.
But Bale, he had strong points and weak points on both sides of it. But it's got to be one of the most challenging roles to play.
I think Bale was a better Batman than he was a Bruce Wayne, but I think he was a better Bruce Wayne than Val Kilmer was a Batman.
Yeah, that's fair.
I will say this about the Nolan movies. They are still my favorites. And for every comic book geek out there that criticizes them as not being a true comic book movie, fine, whatever. But if you took that storytelling and you put it in Matt Reeves' style of Batman, I think that would be the ultimate combination of style and story and capturing everything that we love about Batman from the comics.
Yeah.
I still think my top three Batman movies are still The Dark Knight, the original 89 Batman with Michael Keaton is number 2, and then Batman Begins is number 3. And the best Batman of all time is still always the animated Batman.
Oh God, yeah.
And Kevin Conroy is still
all about that.
Brendan wasn't at our panel in the 3 nights that we did at All-Con. That was pretty much the consensus that really the best Batman is still Kevin Conroy as the voice and Mark Hamill as the Joker. And
remember the argument that I made, Mark, is like anytime I read a Batman comic, that's the voice I hear.
Right.
Like all you need to know about Kevin Conroy as the voice of Batman is this. We were at a con. This is probably 8-9 years ago now, and this was when the Irving Convention Center first opened. It was at Dallas Fan Expo at Irving Convention Center, and a woman gets up, and it's a Kevin Conroy panel, and a woman gets up and tells him that this is how much you are Batman. Is when I put on one of the newer Batman cartoons for my daughter, who I raised on the original Batman TV cartoon, and my daughter's 8 years old, and I put on a new one that you didn't voice. She said, "Mommy, this is fake Batman. Put real Batman on." Out of the mouths of babes, you know?
Yeah. I mean, and another thing that I mentioned was that both Conroy and Hamill have played those characters more and longer than anybody else.
Yeah. And when we did the Killing Joke screening, almost 6 years ago now, can't believe that. during the interview with Mark Hamill, he talks about that process of of the chemistry between both of them. That it's like if you can't really have one without the other, and I think that's what makes them the perfect Batman and the Joker, the yin and yang, and just like Batman needs the Joker and vice versa, as being the ultimate hero and the ultimate villain. So it, but anyway, getting back to the Batman movie, it's great. It's good for what it is, and I'm looking forward to watching it again on HBO Max when I can do it on the comfort of my couch and actually take an intermission. And we'll see what they do with it next. They did drop the deleted scene where he does meet the Joker, and I am excited to see if they were able to get another movie with the Joker and to see what happens. I don't think it'll be as good as Jack Nicholson and Michael Keaton or Heath Ledger and Christian Bale, but I like the actors, and that's the great thing about DC Comics. You have so many universes that you can have different, incarnations of these characters, and everybody has their own personal favorite. So, but then again, you can always go back to the Batman animated series. It's funny to look at that 30 years later. It's like, God damn, that is dark. That was a children's show.
When you're drawing in on black background plates rather than white background plates,
Yep.
You're going to get darkness.
Yeah, that was the first. That was Paul Timm's big innovation that really kind of set that series apart. Was the fact that they chose. They're like, look, it's called The Dark Knight. Let's draw it on black paper, and everybody was like,
what?
I can share this story because it doesn't have anything to do with our embargo. But I had a few minutes with Mark Wahlberg before our interview started, and when I mentioned where I was from, and he was asking me if I had seen the Batman movie and what I thought of it, and and I told him it was a slow burn and you need to be prepared. It's like, I've just heard mixed reactions. It's 3 hours. I don't know if I can sit in a theater for 3 hours and watch this. And one of the things I told him was like, I think this is a perfect movie for HBO Max to really be able to sit, take a break, and I could really honestly see a series on HBO Max with this cast and exploring different villains. But
I'm just glad you didn't go full dick move on him and say, dude, if I could sit through The Happening and you and the Transformers, I could sit through a 3-hour Batman film.
No. I wouldn't do that. I'm just glad he didn't ask me about the Uncharted movie. I'm like,
I don't know. I haven't seen it yet.
Hey.
Anyway, so here's the thing. Marcus and I were talking about this before you got on when you were having your Skynet issues.
Yes.
Talking about being able to watch it on HBO Max and at home be able to take a break halfway through the movie. I have no problem paying for 3-hour plus movies at the movie theater. I have no problem for big epic storytelling, but movie theaters, I implore you, bring back the 15-minute intermission because some of us need to pee. Okay. All right. And we don't want to miss any of the movie. And also, you're always bitching and complaining about how you're not making enough movies these days post-COVID. Well, how do movie theaters make their money? It ain't from ticket sales because that all goes to the movie company. It's from concessions. You give us 15 minutes to take a piss, everybody's going to go get that second Coke, that second beer, that second hot dog, that second thing of candy. Give us the 15 minutes, please. Cinemark, AMC, all the other one, Alamo Drafthouse. I love you all, except for AMC. But give us back our intermission, okay? Thank you. That's my soapbox.
We're guys that are not in our 20s anymore. We're not sitting through an entire movie.
Even when I was in my 20s, like I had the ability, but it wasn't comfortable. Okay, no. Like by the end of it, when you've held on to that piss so long that your bladder is so far stretched out that it's not even a relief to pee anymore, it actually hurts because your bladder's stretched too much. That's not a relief. That's not comfort. No. I want hour and a half. Let me have my comfort pee. Let me go get another soda, another beer. Let me come back. Let's finish this movie in comfort.
Yeah.
And Alamo
I'm gonna go see a lot more movies.
Alamo can make out like a bandit. They could just run their pre-show program before that they had before the movie. They can run that during the intermission.
They can film a whole new one for mid-show.
They can. They really can, and they probably have a ball with it.
My
Yeah.
God. Or you could do, if you want to feature filmmakers, you can do an intermission with a little short film from exciting filmmakers that are about 15
Local, especially here in Texas, local filmmakers, spotlight on local filmmakers. Hey, there's so many great ideas, and it's wonderful. That was my little soapbox moment. Had to get on it. Had to get it off my chest. Hashtag intermission. Bring it back.
Well said, sir. Well said.
Right. Also, we can be bought off with food and beer for.
Oh yeah, we are not above bribery.
Oh, we're chief horse.
All right. With that said, I like how Brendan is bringing up intermission because I'm going to take a quick break real quick, let you guys talk about something to get more water and coffee and use the restroom. So I will be right back. And then we're going to go into the second half of our show. Be right back.
Okay, so I'm going to talk to Chad about this game called Weird West coming out.
Yeah, you've got my
and-
on this.
Okay, so it is a top-down isometric game, like in the vein of, more like Diablo, actually, I guess, because it looks like it's you're not building a party like you would be in Pillars of Eternity or something, but it's 4 different stories in the Old West, but it's like a sci-fi version of the Old West. So you play as a female bounty hunter. Then the next story is your pigman, and you're dual wielding a sickle. And from the concept art, it looks like you're dual wielding a sickle and a meat cleaver. And you're a cursed monster in the eyes of your fellow man, but a monster with a past. Then the next one, you're playing a protector, which looks like you're some type of Indian shaman / warrior, kind of like a ranger with a bow. Then you're a werewolf in another one. And then the 5th character is like a seer. And all of these stories overlap somehow and tell another story. So I'm really interested to play this. The gameplay looks fun. The graphics for an indie game look amazing. I am really, really hyped to check it out. And I will actually link the old trailer in the trailer in our chat. So
I see the developer is a Austin-based developer.
a lot of gaming coming out of Austin these days. BioWare is down there. Aspire, who is and this is if you have Game Pass on Xbox, this is day 1 release, March 31st. Aspire, who is doing the KOTOR remake, is down in Austin. Wizards of the Coast just opened a new, I forget the name of it, but
in Retro Studios that did
I believe so.
The Metroid trilogy, the Metroid Prime trilogy, aren't they based in Austin?
I believe so.
Yeah, they did a game called Wizard with a Gun.
Archetype Entertainment it's a bunch of old BioWare veterans that are founded a game studio for Wizards of the Coast, and they haven't announced. I'm really hoping it's a new D&D RPG, but they haven't announced what it is yet. But because we all know how much I love the last D&D game that came out. What a mess that game! What a bunch of hot garbage that game was. Anyway,
I think what's funny about that. I mean, like our gaming editor and squad leader, K. Scott Cooper, literally gave it a 0, and I think I only gave it like a 1 just because the logo looked cool. It's like,
yeah,
Jesus Christ!
It was the most imbalanced. Basically, it was supposed to be like D&D's version of the Warhammer Vermintide games.
Yeah,
where you had 4 people playing 4 different characters, doing 4 different roles. But the game was so unbalanced that if you weren't Drist or Wolfgar, or excuse me, Drist or Canterbury, you didn't get any kills. Like,
yeah, and
Brunauer or Wolfgar got no kills whatsoever because the other 2 were so fast and so overpowered. So the balancing sucked. The level design was trash. I mean, everything about it.
It was when that game came out and it was just getting horrible reviews. Vermintide 2 went on sale for a while, and you could get copies like the Ultimate Edition for like $13-14. I would have rather paid full price for Vermintide 2 than gotten D&D for free. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, and that's when we do our squad stuff, that's why we stick with Vermintide. It's still a great one to go back to. But anyway, thanks for kind of announcing what's coming out a little bit. It's a great time to
By the way, that release date is March 31st on Weird West. Sorry, I didn't drop that. It's March 31st. It's next week. So
Yeah, you got my attention on that.
Well, it's a great time to be a Game Pass member and have an Xbox. Also coming out April 5th for the second year in a row, MLB The Show will be dropping on day one on Game Pass.
Still freaks me.
I can't wait until November. Starfield.
I know. It's
Before we get into the second half of the show, I do want to say on top of Starfield, though, we watched the state of play for the Hogwarts game. That I am not a Harry Potter guy. Now, I had to buy this game regardless because it's for Erin and she's a huge Harry Potter person. But we have to buy a PS5 now because that game looks insane.
Yeah.
If you have not watched the state of play for the Hogwarts Legacy game, go look it up on YouTube, Chad. It is amazing. Not only can you wander throughout all of Hogwarts Castle, but in the areas beyond. It's completely open world, and it looks stupidly good.
I knew because from being able to play it on PS5, I went ahead and reserved it for myself because I didn't know if I would be the only one doing the review. And I'm with you. I'm not a huge Harry Potter guy. I'm excited. We're doing our press screening of, The Secrets of Dumbledore Thursday, and I am excited to see that. But from a gaming standpoint, it's never going to be like my go-to. I looked at this game and I was like, okay, you've got me excited now. Let's do this.
Like Aaron was like, when they started interviewing all the developers and all the developers had been sorted into their different houses and they had the house emblems next to the developers' names, she was like, I knew these people were Harry Potter fans and understood what I wanted in a game.
My people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, there's just so much great stuff coming out to Game Pass. And, the fact that with them buying up studios and dropping stuff, I think there was an announcement this week that they have 2025 between Game of the Year and award-winning games, like major awards on there with their catalog now. It's the best value in gaming. We keep saying it. We're going to keep saying it. I love the fact that they, from a tournament standpoint, with them having EA Play, we have all the sports games that we need, So anyway, I think the only coup that they really haven't done is like last year they dropped NBA 2K21 eventually on Game Pass. They haven't done that with 22, so I don't know what's going on, but they've had it in years past. So you get all the sports games through there, then why not? One thing I will say, I played, I don't know, maybe about 20% of the Guardians of the Galaxy game last fall when it came out, just to get a feel for it, and I never went back to it. I immediately traded in my PS5 copy because I got a hell of a lot of trade credit for it at GameStop, and it went towards something else. And my frame of mind was, it's going to end up on Game Pass eventually anyway. And sure enough, like 2 or 3 months later, ta-da! I can start over on the game that I wasn't really going to spend $30 on anyway. So anyway, all right. So here is the second half of our show. Yes, the Oscars are this weekend. No, we're not telling you who we think are going to win the Oscars. We don't care. If you listened to our podcast last year or read our magazine article on who gives a fuck about the Oscar, as we talked about Oscar controversies, then there's literally no reason to get back into and have our predictions. But I have said from the outset at the beginning of this year, and I wrote a column about it, about why we need the Nerd Oscars. You need awards for sci-fi superhero shows, big blockbuster stuff where they get recognized, even if certain filmmakers don't think that they're, as good as artsy films. Okay, so whatever. But that doesn't mean that they're not fun films. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't be up for an award. That doesn't mean that there aren't great performances in these movies. So let this be kind of our first year. We have come up with the Nerd Oscars, and while we didn't take every category, we did take the the 6 big categories from Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Picture, Best Supporting Actor, Best Supporting Actress, and Best Director in the big nerd films of 2021. So we're going to tell you who our favorites are and who we think should win, and I'm going to list off the nominees. Some might be in 2 different categories. It doesn't really matter. But these are our films. This is for the people who follow us, okay? And I'm still convinced that Spider-Man No Way Home is a lot better of a movie than half the shit that was nominated for. Yeah, because when it comes down to a choice of movies, I'm always going to go to The Power of the Dog on Netflix before I watch Spider-Man No Way Home.
Naturally, yes, of course. Who wouldn't?
Power of the Dog, where there's subtle hints about 2 gay cowboys. Sorry, I saw that movie once before, and it did win awards, and it was great performances. I don't need to see it again. But Spider-Man No Way Home, I will watch that over and over. Mm-hmm. So we're going to start like the Oscars do, and we're going to start with Best Supporting Actress in a Movie. And here are the nominees. Zendaya from Dune Part 1, McKenna Grace from Ghostbusters Afterlife, Florence Pugh from Black Widow, Rachel Weisz from Black Widow, Emily Blunt from Jungle Cruise, Naomi Harris, No Time to Die, Awkwafina, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Margot Robbie, The Suicide Squad, Gemma Arterton from The Kingsman, and Tig Notaro from Army of the Dead. And I sent you guys the list. Hopefully you've had a chance to look over it. I'm going to start with you, Chad. Who would you pick for Best Actress in a Supporting Role in the Nerd Oscars?
This was a no-brainer for me. It's Florence Pugh.
Okay. Okay. Brendan?
I'm going somewhere different. I'm going Gemma Arterton from The Kingsman.
Okay. I very much liked her in that role. I got to go with Chad. I liked Florence Pugh in the Black Widow movie, even though it wasn't a great movie. I just thought she was great.
She was great in it. And congratulations to her for winning the role of Madonna.
Oh, God, she did.
Won the role of Madonna in the biopic.
Okay, well, that'll be very interesting. I hope they get all the young boy toys right when they do the biopic pick. So I think, and their age is right. I think she's on number 24 age and number of, so. But there you go. Chad and I both agree Florence Pugh deserves that award. She was very good. Although a good runner-up, Margot Robbie is pretty damn good Harley Quinn. So, and I did like Awkwafina in Shang-Chi.
Which surprised me because normally she gets on my nerves. But I did like her in that role.
Right. I would also, give a shout out to McKenna Grace and Ghostbusters Afterlife. I mean, she very much had the look and feel of Egon's granddaughter.
Yeah.
So, all right. Actor in a supporting role. Here are our nominees at the Nerd Oscars. Neil Patrick Harris in Matrix Resurrection, Oscar Isaac in Dune Part 1, Taika Waititi, Free Guy, Rami Malek as the villain in No Time to Die, Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man No Way Home, Andrew Garfield in Spider-Man No Way Home, Jason Momoa in Dune Part 1, David Arbor in Black Widow, and Richard Madden in The Eternals, Paul Rudd, Ghostbusters Afterlife. And this time I'm going to start with you, Brendan. Who would you pick?
You know what? I'm gonna have to go to just because his career has undergone a bit of a renaissance this year, and partly due to his performance in Spider-Man: No Way Home. I'm gonna go Andrew Garfield.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Without question.
So that's your pick too, huh?
Absolutely. As soon as I saw his name, I'm like, that's it.
Okay, I'm the odd man out. I went with David Arbor from Black Widow. I just really loved him in that movie. But I will absolutely agree with you with Andrew Garfield. He is very deserving. He's deserving of an actual Oscar. Tick Tick Boom, great movie. I watched that twice in a row when we got our screener on Netflix. And oh my God, him as Jim Baker in the
Yes. Yes. Damn.
God wants us to be rich.
Jeez, man.
You know what? I will say this about that movie. It's not a nerd movie, but if Jessica Chastain does not win an Oscar, damn, was she spot on.
They definitely that definitely needs to get for best makeup.
Go. Oh, by the way, I also love, if you've never watched The Righteous Gemstones on HBO Max, you are doing yourself a disservice. As Danny Snyder plays the son of basically a huge televangelist, played by John Goodman. And it's a kind of a satirical look at mega churches and televangelists. But season 2, part of the storyline was them getting in bed with another minister about building a religious resort, premium resort. And I'm like, I think y'all did that on purpose as a nice little knock to Jim Baker and Tammy Faye.
Yeah, you think?
That's exactly, if there's a God, that's exactly what he wanted, is to make sure you spend your life savings to go worship him in a premium resort.
I always loved how Kinnison broke that down. Where the hell did I say build a water slide? How did they get that out of this?
Anyway,
this is why so The Righteous Gemstones actually makes me feel sad that Bernie Mac died, because I would have loved a Bernie Mac movie where he's playing Creflo Dollar. And if you don't know who that is a televangelist from Atlanta who has his own private jet, has 2 Rolls Royces, lives in a multi-million-dollar home in Atlanta, and has a few other multi-million-dollar properties. Yeah, like he would be perfect. Like I need him and then Martin Short as Joel Osteen.
Oh,
I think that would have been an amazing movie.
Oh my God. Isn't
Actually, I think Kevin Short and Kevin was it not Kevin? What's his name? Kevin does the movies with the Rocks.
Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart as Creflo Dollar and Martin Short as Joel Osteen in a movie. That would be amazing.
That even though he already had like 2 planes, trying to get his church to raise money for yet another plane because the other ones were outdated.
Yeah, I think so. Yes, I think that's yeah.
God.
I mean,
it's like I love what's his face's name? Ron White. We're talking about the watching the pastor late at night. It's like, so I'm naked in a beanbag chair eating Cheetos, and I'm watching this pastor, and he's like, "Have you spent your entire life in bars pursuing sins of the flesh?" I think, "Yes, sir." He's like, "Are you naked in a beanbag chair eating Cheetos?" This guy's good.
This guy's
Do you feel the need to send me a check for $5,000 right now? Ooh, close. Thought he was talking about me there for a second.
Oh man, yeah. Well, we don't necessarily talk about religion on this show unless we are satirizing it somehow.
Televangelists deserve to be satired.
Oh yeah, it does make me wonder if you follow a televangelist and you're happy to give them money. Yeah. Anyway, and Martin Short is Joel Osteen. Oh my God.
Well, because Joel Osteen looks like he's Martin Short's kid.
Yeah, he does.
Hey, I've got it. A spin-off of Only Murders in the Building. Only Murders at a mega church.
Have Steve Martin play Robert Tilton.
Oh my God. Oh,
We'd have to work. The
And I still say,
preacher in
and
there
we get
somehow.
Kevin Hart as Creflo Dollar, and we're good.
oh my God.
Oh my God, that'd be fantastic. We have to make this happen. We have to contact their people.
If only Patrice O'Neill were still alive, he could play TD Jakes.
Oh my God. I forgot about TG. Yeah, I forgot about that guy too.
Hey, we'll get Ron White to play Pat Buchanan.
Oh,
Oh my God, we have to get on the line at these people's
Yeah, we
agents and
do.
make this happen.
oh my God.
Holy shit.
700 Club stands for
Oh.
700 scotches.
Oh,
Well, I'm telling you, if you just are tired of paying taxes, start your own religion.
no kidding.
Or become a televangelist. Oh my God.
Mhm.
Anyway. All right. Our next category in the Nerd Oscars. Actually, we did hit upon one director that is actually nominated for the award, which was surprising. But anyway, Best Director.
The one
And
whose name is hardest to pronounce.
yes. So, Dennis Villeneuve for Dune
And you
Part
didn't.
Whatever. I don't care.
It's Denis Villeneuve.
You know what? Whatever.
Yeah, because he's French, not Spanish.
Yeah, he's Canadian.
He's French Canadian, damn it.
Yeah.
Bite me.
That freaked me out. I was like, what the hell?
Well,
Now, we know he's from Quebecois.
the guy who directed Dune Part 1. How
There you
about
go. There you go. Let's simplify it.
John Watts for Spider-Man No Way Home. Kate Shortland for Black Widow. Chloe Zhao for The Eternals. Destin Daniel Cretton for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Sean Levy for Free Guy. Carrie Joey Fukinga. I mispronounced that and I apologize.
Okunaga.
Yes, thank you. For No Time to Die. Lana Wachowski for Matrix Resurrection. David Gordon Green for Halloween Kills. Jason Reitman for Ghostbusters Afterlife. James Gunn for the Suicide Squad. Zack Snyder for the Justice League Snyder Cut. And we do thank you for improving on the studio movie. Doug Liman for Chaos Walking. A movie I think everybody kind of forgot that did come out last year, but we did throw it up in our categories. Chris McKay for The Tomorrow War and Andy Serkis for Venom, Let There Be Carnage. So, Chad, who was your pick?
God, this is a tough one. It really is a tough one because, I feel like Denis Villeneuve deserves some pretty high praise for taking a film that so many people thought was probably better left alone after Lynch got a hold of it and did what he did to it in the 80s. And somehow he's managed to improve on that formula and make it a genuine epic rather than just a weird Lynch fest. Now, that probably didn't sound right, but, we all know that Lynch is a nutbag. And I love what Sean Levy did with Free Guy, but I'm sorry. I got to go with John Watts here.
And that's,
I've got to.
that's understandable. I totally get that.
John Watts did something that we didn't think we would see again after going through what we went through with the Russo brothers, with how they handled the Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame. And somehow he did that.
Right.
he
gave us our Spider-Man Endgame, and it was
More appropriately, he made the rest of Phase 4 worth watching.
yes,
Because it sets up the rest of Phase 4 to her. Because we were all sitting here after Endgame going, okay, so Marvel's kind of over, right? Because
yeah. Now
they're
what?
going to keep cranking out movies, but I mean, they titled it Endgame. Hey,
For a reason, yeah. You felt like Bloat the fish at the end of Finding Nemo floating in the back.
We
Okay,
still have
now what?
Yeah.
And he did it. He did that, and he made that segue and made the rest of this, like you said, set up the rest of it to where it actually is somehow going to make sense. They've got something to work off of.
Brendan, how about you?
So I was tempted to do Zack Snyder just because he took his movie that was butchered by somebody else and made it better, but I just couldn't get over the slow-mo. I was tempted to do James Gunn in the Suicide Squad because he took a horrible movie in the first one and made it entertaining in the second one. But then he also took Nathan Fillion and just wasted him on the dumbest character in all of DC. And I was really tempted to do John Watts in Spider-Man No Way Home for all the reasons Chad's just enumerated. But I am going to go with the funny Canadian Frenchman who Marcus can't pronounce his name, Denis Villeneuve. Vive the news.
He was a strong contender. Yeah, definitely.
So I'm gonna go with Dune for a couple reasons. One, I absolutely love the movie. Two, I loved how it pissed everybody off going, it felt unfinished because it's fucking part one.
But it is unfinished.
Like that was an actual like IGN put that in there. I'm like, you're a paid critic. How do you know this isn't part one?
Yeah. That's like bitching about Infinity War feeling unfinished.
Said part one at the beginning of the movie. Mm-hmm. It literally says that. It's like
it's just like
Fellowship of the Ring felt unfinished. Go fuck your mouth.
Yeah, because guess what? The Two Towers starts on page 325, not page 1. Yeah. It's the same book.
The Empire Strikes Back felt unfinished. Shut the fuck up.
Well, I agree.
Yours felt unfinished. Oh, wait. Never mind. Sorry, wrong one.
I agree with you, Brendan. This was my pick for Best Director, and for all the reasons you said, also because we finally got a Dune movie that was in the proper style, pacing. You know, the first part of Dune. I love the cast.
I think it did a very good job of showing the Dune universe and being an actual universe. Because if the one thing Lynch didn't do, because everything was in that, and I will say Lynchian style rather than Lynch Fest, because you're right, that was a little anyway. So,
sorry. But I swear to God, I'm sorry.
Easy mistake. But it did a very good. Like Lynch did not do a very good job. Everything kind of looked the same. It was either dark, creepy space jets or desert. Mm-hmm. Villeneuve did a very good job of making each location feel unique. And you're okay, I'm on this planet now. Now I'm on this planet. Now I'm on this planet. Now I'm in space. You know, he did a very good job of world building where I don't think Lynch did. Lynch let his visual spectacle and film style and the storytelling be the only stage. And that's fine. It was good. And I love it. But I think Villeneuve did a really good job on building on what Lynch did and improving it and making it a little easier to follow. I think, especially once the second one comes out, I think if you take that 2-part movie and you show it to people and you show them the Lynch version, they're going to be like, this is a much easier narrative to follow. Right. Both good, but this one's better, easier. It's a better told story.
Well, once you get everything that they're doing with it, yeah, I think except for the hardcore Lynch fans, I think overall sci fans are going to look at Dune as this.
I think Dune fans of the Dune books, will appreciate Villeneuve's version better than Lynch fans. And if Lynch fans wanted, slob Lynch's knob, that's fine. That's
you go. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I'm not saying the guy's not an amazing director, even if he is, 2 6-packs short of a case. But
my main thing about this movie and his direction is, I always talk about this with Blade Runner 2049, which is an absolute amazing movie. I tried to pick it apart 5 years ago, and I really just ended up giving it a perfect 10. I talked about pacing, that when you have slow pacing, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But in a sci-fi movie where it slowly draws you in to the story, Star Trek: The Motion Picture did that in a lot of ways, which I think made that film better than it probably should have been. What they did with this first part to kind of, get you into the lore, take you to what is going to be the second part, all of the action, to me, it was perfect. And that's the epitome of great storytelling. And that's what I love about him as a director. And especially, with Blade Runner 2049, which I still consider perfection. So yeah, to me, it's hands down. And if they don't give him the real Oscar for that, then again, they're just, if you're not going to give it to him because he doesn't check all your politically correct boxes, you're just a moron. And also one more thing I want to comment on. We were talking about, people complaining that it's an unfinished movie. I still harken back to the one critic, well, people of color aren't represented in this movie. And I'm like, first of all, they are. And second of all, it's the first part of the fucking movie.
Don't worry, the second part will be almost all colored people.
Yeah.
Right. So to those kind of critics, you don't understand storytelling.
Yeah. Save your mock outrage for later and shut it.
Your little podcast that you're doing or whatever actually know a thing or two. And I will bring this up. This is for future writers, when you're doing a screenplay, books, or whatever. One of the best quotes is by William Faulkner. Read everything. Trash, classics. Like an apprentice to a carpenter, you have to learn how to do it. You have to learn what storytelling is, and you have to he's basically saying you have to pull it from multiple sources. If you don't understand that, you're just an idiot, and you shouldn't be criticizing anything to begin with.
Right.
Also, some of these people I don't think have actually ever read a book or skipped over that part in school. Maybe they don't do that in school. I don't know. But yeah, save your fake bullshit, blah, blah, blah.
Spare us your woke agenda and move the fuck on.
Yeah, I don't really care. All right. Blah, 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 blah. So moving on to the bigger categories. Actress in a leading role. We don't really have any Oscar music, so.
Okay.
We'll go with
that. I'm good with that.
All right, here's the nominees. Zendaya in Spider-Man No Way Home. Scarlett Johansson in Black Widow. Jodie Comer in Free Guy. Carrie-Anne Moss in Matrix Resurrections. Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween Kills. Michelle Williams, Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Lee Sado, No Time to Die. Rebecca Ferguson, Dune Part 1. Daisy Ridley in Chaos Walking. And Emma Stone in Cruella. Brendan, I will start with you on this category.
I'm going with Jodie Comer and Free Guy.
Brendan and I are totally in sync today because that was
because that movie really caught me by surprise. I thought it was going to be funny because it's Ryan Reynolds. He's funny.
Right.
But I didn't think I would enjoy the movie outside of Ryan Reynolds as much as I did, and I really liked a lot of the people and characters in it, and I think she stole the show.
Oh God.
Yeah. Whereas I feel bad for Scarlett Johansson just because I think she was given short shrift throughout the entire phase 3 of the MCU. And honestly, I would have much rather have seen that movie come out in the place of Captain Marvel.
Agreed.
And I think it would have been a better movie had it come out right there in the storyline and you got to see, parts of that. Zendaya, honestly, I'm not a huge fan of hers as an actress. I don't know. I mean, and maybe I could be wrong on this, but who knows? Maybe she'll grow up and maybe as she grows, she'll grow into a better actress in my eyes.
Movies, but I recognize her talents in her show on HBO, Euphoria.
Yeah,
that's how I'll leave her at that.
But I love Carrie-Anne Moss, but The Matrix Resurrections was. Jamie Lee Curtis, Your Goddess. But it's a Halloween movie. You're not getting the best one. Sorry.
And there was no make this movie.
Michelle Williams. Yeah, Venom wasn't that great. It was okay. The rest of them were just. It's just kind of that. Okay, you were there. But Jodie Comer really to me stole the show. So that's why.
I will say that Lisa Doe, though. I mean, I like her as a Bond girl. I loved her in Spectre. I loved her in No Time to Die. You are one of the better Bond girls. But I agree with Brendan. You stole that movie. You're gorgeous. If you've never watched Killing Eve, go watch it. She is great. And I fell over myself, my little geek inner child, when she's rocking out like, that's right, it's a fucking lightsaber. I'm like, yeah, that's the nerd girl I want. That's my dream nerd girl. So she was great. Of course, I just really love the light. Is that a Glock in your pocket? No, it's two Glocks. So I will say this. Speaking of a connection to Bond movies, first of all, I will watch anything with Michelle Yeoh because she's a great actress. And even though No Time to Die is kind of a shitty Bond movie, she is a great Bond girl. But that whole motorcycle scene chase in the movie is absolutely brilliant. And that was the first thing I thought of in Free Guy when she's on backwards and has the guns and everything. It was like, I don't know if they're intentionally doing it, but that's a nice nod to kind of a shitty Bond movie, but a great action sequence. So, but that's my geek self kind of geeking out a little bit. And Chad, you were saying you were pretty much on the same page about Jodie Comer.
Yeah, out of everybody on this list for actress in a leading role, I really do feel like Jodie Comer is the main one that made the film better she was in by being in the film.
Right.
Well, not only that,
but for instance, they elevated that film.
Yeah, she not only elevated that film, like she even stole scenes from Ryan Reynolds, who was the number one titled star. Yeah,
very hard to do.
And and just because of Ryan's huge, and I'm not saying I'm not saying Ryan's a bad actor, but I'm also not saying that he's going to challenge Daniel Day-Lewis anytime soon. It's just he's such a big personality, and he's very charismatic on the screen. So when she can come in there and just through the sheer force of her acting, because you don't know, a lot of people didn't know who she was beforehand. A lot of people, she's not a household name, and just through the sheer force of her acting, steal the scene from Ryan Reynolds, that really did, as you say, lift up the movie, because it just wasn't him. There was another leg for that movie to stand on. And I don't think anybody else really did that. I don't know that, and in some of their cases, I don't even know that they had the opportunity to do that given the script they were working with. Like for example, Léa Seydoux from No Time to Die. I don't think she really had the opportunity to shine. I'm sure she's a phenomenal actress, and given the right material, she could, pull it off. But I think Jodie really gave a standout performance.
Yeah. No, I would agree. Overall, compared to everybody else, and
so that's our first unanimous one. That's pretty cool.
Right. Okay. Moving along to the next category: actor in a leading role. We have Timothy Chalamet?
Chalamet.
Chalamet. Okay. Boy, I'm really sucking at French today. Anyway, for Dune Part 1, Tom Holland, Spider-Man No Way Home. Daniel Craig, No Time to Die. Keanu Reeves, Matrix Resurrection. Or that could literally be a future Oscar nomination for the next John Wick movie. It could go either way. Anyway, Simon Luau for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Chris Pratt, The Tomorrow War. Ryan Reynolds, Free Guy. Tom Hardy, Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Riz Ahmed, Encounter. And Tom Hanks in Finch. We basically put Tom Hanks on that list because he's Tom Hanks and he made a really adorable sci-fi movie for Apple Plus.
Yeah, I watched Finch and it was good, but I'm not voting for Tom Hanks just because he's Tom Hanks.
Yeah, I know. And I agree. Like,
You got the nomination just because he's Tom Hanks. He's not getting voted for.
He doesn't need our help.
no,
Yeah.
but it was a good movie, and I hope he does more for Apple Plus because Greyhound's another great movie. So anyway, Chad, I will start with you. Who is your pick for actor in a leading role in the Nerd Oscars?
I got to give it to Tom. I got to give it to Tom Holland on this. Just showing the emotional journey that he went through. I mean, he convinced me, and that's not always to do when you're wearing, red and blue spandex, that you can feel the emotional weight of what he's been put through from the start of his journey. He's had an incredible arc to watch develop, and have to break out under the shadow of always being in Tony Stark's shadow and then standing on his own to be his own Spider-Man is not an easy task, and I think he's done it admirably.
Yeah, Brendan, how about you?
Yeah, this was actually harder for me than the ladies because I don't know that there was one really big standout performance. I'm just not like I like Tom Holland as Spider-Man, but I'm just not as big of a Tom Holland guy. I really had a hard time picking here, which is why I'm going to do something a little weird and go with a movie that wasn't released in theaters. I'm going to go Riz Ahmed and The Counter. Just because, I think he had everything else was a big like ensemble thing, right? And with the exception of Chris Pratt and Tomorrow More, but let's be honest, that's just gun porn. And that's fine with that, but not for giving an annual award. I think Riz with a smaller scale movie and a smaller, smaller cast and smaller budget. It was just about him and the acting. And, Simon Liu did his best, Jackie Chan impersonation, but that's an impersonation. We already talked about my feelings about The Matrix, and Daniel Craig was basically the same James Bond he's been for 5 movies. And Timothy Chalamet, they basically said, okay, you're going to look confused and unsure of yourself for 2 hours. And he said, okay.
I can do that.
Like, I'm not trying to give Timothy Chalamet shit, but like, I mean, you don't have to work real hard to act confused and unsure of yourself when dealing with, Dune material. So, yeah, that's
trying to read the script.
Yeah. That's kind of all those reasons. I think Riz Ahmed gave a really good performance in a really unheralded movie. And I don't think that anybody else did enough with their big budget movie to say they did better.
Well, I look at it from a different standpoint. I was really torn on Tom Holland and Daniel Craig. I thought Craig did a great job on his last Bond movie, and it was, if you look at all of the final Bond movies of every actor, they're not really good. Diamonds Are Forever is not a very good movie. View to a Kill is obviously not a great movie, despite Christopher Walken being the villain. Die Another Day.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maxwell Zorn.
So,
Crazy.
License to Kill, better movie, but not as good as Living.
And it wasn't supposed to be his last film. His last film was supposed to be Goldeneye.
Yeah. So I look at this as one of the better Bond movies. He goes out, great swan song. But Brendan, you do have a good point. It's hard to give him credit for being the same Bond. And if you look at all of his Bond movies, it's not his best performance. I think Skyfall really is his best performance.
Oh yeah, Skyfall and then Casino Royale.
Yeah.
Are like neck and neck.
Yeah, and in which we rate as the two best Bond movies. Because you get the beginnings of James Bond versus that point in your career where you're at a crossroads and you kind of have to reinvent yourself, and you go in, then you start going into the major lore of Bond and meet Spectre. And so, but here's actually why I picked Tom Holland. It's not that I think he's a great actor. I pick him for him being in two good movies, one that was a little underrated this past year. Chaos Walking just got thrown out in the theater. It was supposed to be released like 2 years ago, got caught up in the pandemic. It's not a great sci-fi movie, but I thought it was a lot of fun, and I thought he was better in that movie than people give him credit for. And the same with Daisy Ridley. And it had a great cast. I kind of liked him better in that, but I also agree with Chad about the emotional weight of Spider-Man No Way Home, especially with, when Aunt May dies. So I think because he has these two great performances in nerd movies, and he's, come along as an actor, and these two performances are definitely a lot better than him playing Nathan Drake. So that's my reasoning for picking him and putting him kind of over the top compared to everybody else. And as much as I love Keanu Reeves, you just play into my theory that John Wick and Neo are the same character trapped in the Matrix by this last movie. And while I enjoyed it for what it is, it's obvious there was no reason to make it except, hey, let's bring everybody back together. Although I did like Neil Patrick Harris as the new architect or master or whatever you want to call him in this movie. Tom Hanks, again, I feel like you make these movies where you can win an Oscar every time you make a movie because you're Tom Hanks. But I'm never going to watch Finch again. It's a good one-timer for me. And Ryan Reynolds is just being Ryan Reynolds, as great as that movie is. If it was another Deadpool movie, probably I would have given it to him because Deadpool is awesome. And we're very excited for 3. And Timothy Chalamet, I think he is the better version of that character. Yes. But it's also part 1. I think he'll do a lot better job in part 2 once you get to that part of the story. So anyway, that's how I come down on Tom Holland winning that award more than anything else, because he did actually have 2 good roles, and Spider-Man No Way Home was just awesome. So, all right. Gotta finish this out with the big award. Again, more intro music.
Jesus.
Wake up, Chad.
I'm awake and now deaf. But
So we have 15 nerd movies that you can choose from. One of them is thrown in there just to make out the list, even though it's not a really good movie, but it is a nerd movie, and I'm talking about Snake Eyes.
Yeah, I picked that out. I was like, ooh, you were running low on options, weren't
Yeah.
this is the desperation. This is the Hail Mary.
I wanted to round it out to 15 and have more choices, but yeah, okay.
you? I think you probably could have cut out a few of these and left it at 10, but that's just me.
We may do that next year, but anyway. Dune, Part 1. Number 2, Spider-Man, No Way Home. Number 3, Black Widow. Number 4, The Eternals. Number 5, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Number 6, Free Guy. Number 7, No Time to Die. Number 8, Matrix Resurrection. 9, Halloween Kills. 10, Ghostbusters Afterlife. 11, The Suicide Squad. Number 12, Justice League, the Snyder Cut, because yes, it deserves to get nominated for an award as being a better movie than the other one. Number 13, Mortal Kombat, just because it was a fun fucking movie. Okay. Number 14, Snake Eyes. Yes, we were running low on options on that one.
Which was not a fun fucking movie.
Yeah. Obviously, you know that's just on the list to be on the list, and we're not choosing that movie.
When I groan audibly out loud in the theater. Ugh.
Number 15, Venom, Let There Be Carnage. So with that said, you know what we're not picking, which is a unanimous decision. Brendan, who did you pick?
Well, another one I'm not picking, when the best part of your movies is the after credit scene for a guy who's not even on screen asking a question, the Eternals. Just because we get, Blade hinting at teaming up with Black Knight. And possibly Moon Knight and Daredevil, and that's just going to be a whole lot of awesome if that happens, and Punisher. But I'm really torn between the first two.
Same.
And I think I'm going to go with Dune Part 1, because as much as I like Spider-Man No Way Home, and as much as it was cool to get all three Spider-Man on the same screen and to recreate the Spider-Man meme in the freaking movie, at one point, the three Spider-Men pointing at each other. I mean, I don't know. Like, it was fun, and it did set up the rest of I can't put it above Dune Part 1. I really enjoyed Dune Part 1, and I'm really looking forward to Dune Part 2. And if they don't, I don't know, I'm not going to try and explain it any more than that. I'm just going to say I'm going with Dune Part 1.
Okay. Chad, how about you?
I've got to go the opposite direction, because I honestly think that the reason I wouldn't want to give Dune Part 1 our nerd Oscar is because I think it's got a legitimate shot at winning the real one. I think it has I think it has a legitimate chance of walking away with it. I don't know. I know there's a lot of competition, but it's the only one on this list that actually is nominated for Best Picture in the real Oscar.
Right.
So, and if for no other reason, and no, I'm not saying that the freaking naysayers have an argument here of it feels unfinished. Spider-Man No Way Home was a more complete experience for me, because it took me on a total journey. And you had your wish fulfillment come true with Toby and Andrew and Tom all on the screen at the same time, and multiple, in costume, out of costume, sharing that, just the conversations they were having about how their webs came out, and the weird villains that they fought. I just loved seeing that. It just felt like we were really watching a comic book come to life that we read when we were 7.
Yeah.
The jubilation that it gave me, there was so much joy welling up in me, and it made me giggle, it made me cry. It was the total package for me.
I am agreeing with Chad, but I'm also torn between the top two. The only reason I don't pick Dune Part 1 is I think the second part of that story is better. But I love how they set it up. I love the style. It is almost a perfect movie to get to where you're going in that story. But I'm also one of those guys that when I look at trilogies, so to speak, I look at them as a whole when it comes to a story.
Mm-hmm.
I can't just take The Godfather Part 1 without looking at The Godfather Part 2 as a story.
Yes.
Because you have the whole backstory of Vito, and I use that as an analogy since we are celebrating the 50th anniversary of The Godfather. But yeah, if you look at but Chad's right, if you look at a complete film, that's what Spider-Man No Way Home is. It not only sets up and gets us excited for Phase 4, it's one of the best single, Marvel movies in a long time. Like I feel the same way about this movie, the way that I feel about Winter Soldier, which is my favorite Marvel movie, or Ragnarok. And there's just so much that's going for it. It's tragic, it's emotional, and my God, all three Spider-Mans had such great chemistry. And I imagine the outtakes in that movie of them just having a good time film. The villains too. You can tell that they were just having a great time on set. And
there was a great meme. It was apparently about based off a conversation that the three villains had during an interview, and that Jamie Foxx was like, "I was just happy to not be blue," and Alfred Molina was like, "I was just happy to get a paycheck." And then they go to Willem Dafoe, and he was like, "I just wanted to beat the shit out of Tom Holland."
That seemed like everybody was having the time of their lives on that film.
because I imagine that scenario like we've always had memories in pubs where whether it's coming to seeing a movie or whatever, you're just having a good time talking about telling stories, having drinks. Those interviews also remind me a lot of, Kevin Smith's, or not Kevin Smith, but Jon Favreau's Dinner for Five, where you're just having a good time with these people and you enjoy what you're doing. And so that's why I think Spider-Man No Way Home is the best nerd movie from last year. And one other thing, and it goes to Andrew Garfield, the fact that he does get that redemption and being able to save her.
God.
Because he is a very tragic Spider-Man. You never got, because they didn't start with Gwen Stacy with the Tobey Maguire movies, you don't get the tragedy of what he's dealing with before he meets MJ, and I would have loved, that's why I think the Garfield movies are a little bit more emotional because he has to deal with that. And of course, I would have loved to have seen the footage where he does meet MJ. That all got cut, but there's just so much that works for that movie. I could also say Free Guy because it's a favorite comedy of last year.
Yeah,
and I watch that every day and never get bored. But there's just everything else on the list. Some of them are not very good movies. Some of them are, and they're fun. Ghostbusters Afterlife, it's a fun movie, but also a little unnecessary.
A little too late.
Yeah,
Kinda.
I'm glad they got it done. I love the connections. I love Ghost Egon, but
Love they got it done before Ivan passed away. I wish they had done it before Ramus passed away, but
there's a lot to like about that movie.
There really is.
Connection to the original, but it is pure nostalgia more than anything else. If that movie had come out, that started the Ghostbuster series, it wouldn't be a cult phenomenon.
Right.
So
I think the three that we're all torn on, though, can we all agree that these are the three that we can watch over and over again? Dune Part 1, Spider-Man No Way Home, and Free Guy?
Yeah.
Yes.
And we have already, I'm sure.
And
yeah, I've watched them all multiple times.
Same here. And those are the only three. The only three on this list I've watched at least 3 times a piece.
Well, no, that's not true. I've watched Mortal Kombat 3 times.
I've watched it twice. I haven't watched it 3.
I will say that I've watched Mortal Kombat multiple times, but
not because it's amazing cinema, just because it had really good fight scenes.
Yeah, it had cool shit in it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've watched No Time to Die a couple of times, and I'll watch it again. As I binge.
I tell you what, I almost didn't watch the whole time, even though I was in the theaters. Snake Eyes.
Just remember, folks,
that was not going away anytime soon, Marcus.
We are professionals. We sit through the entire movie, even if we doze off to get to the end.
Are you closing your eyes so you don't have to watch this? No, Snake Eyes is blind. I'm trying to get into the character, even though he wasn't blind or me. I mean, come on.
I'm going to comment on the Halloween movies, though, because we had to make another trilogy of movies because somehow Michael Myers is supernatural and just never dies, and we don't.
He's the Monty Python of freaking horror guys. Not dead yet.
No.
Black Knight, yeah, the Black Knight.
And I have this theory that even after 40 years, they finally figure out, let's cut the head off. That should do it. He would still grow a head again.
Yeah, it'd be like a Hydra.
movie.
Come back, and come back at the very beginning of the movie. His head's just one of the tiny little heads from Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Little mask on it.
Growing back like Shaloobs and fucking Men in Black.
Yeah.
Sensitive prick.
It was like after 40 years, let's burn him.
Hey, I haven't seen him in a while. What the hell is going on with Tony Shalhoub lately?
Meisel? Miss Meisel?
Oh, I didn't know. I don't watch that much, so
Yeah, watch that. He's really good in that.
But here's the thing. Why after 40 years in the Halloween movies? And I can say the same thing about the last Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. Why has nobody figured out, let's cut the head off?
Hell, even Thanos gave that away. Shit.
I don't know.
Why didn't you go for the head? Should have gone for the head.
Let's shoot the Leatherface and he drops in, but we don't use his chainsaw to cut his head off.
Just to frickin' fricassee his ass. I don't get it. I've never gotten that.
Also, speaking of hallway, slow walks and all that, this is the worst. And this goes into a movie that came out this year. The Scream movie, which is on Paramount Plus if you haven't seen it. Yes, you're a hero, Dewey, trying to get all the kids to the elevator after you've shot Ghostface. But here's the thing. After you've shot Ghostface, before you rush off to the elevator, once you've got him down, you didn't think to reload the gun and shoot him in the face because he might be wearing Kevlar.
Or pick up his fucking knife and carry it away.
This is where I go back to. This is why Jack Bauer was right when he's telling Kim in season 2, honey, you've got to put a few more in his chest and in his face just to make sure.
Just for good shit, good for good measure.
Anyway. But yes, Spider-Man No Way Home is our winner with a very close second of Dune Part 1 because we all agree that, I mean, they're just probably the two most amazing movies that came out last year. Hands down. So next year we'll do more with the Nerd Oscars. I feel like we should keep this going to talk about movies that aren't going to be nominated for awards because I think these are more important awards. And
the ones we actually care about.
Yeah.
Because I will tell you, of the 10 films that have been nominated for Best Picture, I've seen one.
Exactly. The one we keep voting on in here.
Yeah. Like I've heard good things about Belfast. Haven't watched it yet.
Watched it.
I kind of want to see King Richard. I kind of want to see Nightmare Alley. Other than that,
King Richard was good, but that's a good one-timer for me. I mean, I if Will Smith gets the Oscar for it, I will like kudos to you. That's great. You did a great job. Nightmare Alley, I still haven't actually watched. I was going to try and do it this weekend.
I walked through the room when my wife was watching it, and she's like, "I can't." She got almost to the end of it, and she literally punched out with 20 minutes to go in the movie. So that's not fun. And she loves that kind of shit. She loves that genre stuff.
Well, I might throw it up in the background while I'm working. My actual pick for Best Picture, because they won't give it to Dune Part 1, even though they should, is I think Coda is actually going to win because it does check all the boxes for the Academy. And it is a great movie. It is absolutely worth watching. But they're just out of everything else. I've seen better Irish movies than Belfast. That's how I came down on that movie. Great cast, whatever, but there's been a lot better movies made with actual like Irish people.
That just reeks of Oscar bait to me.
No, it is. I mean, they're good at it. It just didn't do anything for me like everything else. You know, the last Irish kind of movie that was nominated for an Oscar that I thought was really good, Philomena, with Judi Dench and God, why am I drawing a name? He plays the Alan Partridge character, Steve.
I got nothing.
Anyway, but it was Philomena is the character. She was forced to give up her child in a nunnery, so to speak, and the child was sent to America, was adopted out, and she wants to track down what happened.
Was it Steve Coogan?
Steve Coogan, thank you.
I was trying to pull it up, but it seemed like I remember him being in it. Yeah, Steve Coogan.
Yeah, and that was a really good movie. But outside of Daniel Day-Lewis doing something like The Boxer or In the Name of the Father.
That's what I thought you were going to say was In the Name of the Father.
No, I mean, it's a great movie. I like The Boxer more personally. But then again, Liam Neeson as Michael Collins. So, all right, everybody. That's how we come down when it comes to the Nerd Oscars, which we think are more important awards. We will obviously announce who the winners are of the Oscars on our website.
Spider-Man gets the Stan Lee Cup.
Spider-Man gets the Stan Lee Cup.
Of course he does.
So, as it probably should be. And hopefully, we'll have a lot more better choices this year now that more movies are coming out in theaters and we're getting past the pandemic. So, real quick before we go, Brendan, do you have a beer that you want to recommend to our nerds?
Yeah, something a little different just because when going out, I've been switching to non-alcoholic beers because I didn't even realize that non-alcoholic craft beer was becoming a thing. But Athletic Brewing from Stratford, Connecticut has a IPA called Run Wild that to me tastes a lot like Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. It's extremely drinkable. It's very crisp. It's not overly bitter. And it's 0.4% alcohol. So you can drink it all day and never tick up on the BAC counter. It is available pretty much nationwide. You can get it here in Texas. I know they have it at the Celt in McKinney. They have it at every Total Wine, pretty much every Target. So it's pretty tasty. It's really good. And if you're going out and you want to drink, but you don't want to get drunk or get a DWI, it's a really nice option.
So what you're saying is it's better than O'Doul's?
Oh, yes. And it's better than Heineken 0.0 too, because Heineken 0.0, they did a really good job of making it taste like Heineken, but Heineken tastes like poop. So
yeah, that's not a good thing.
Heineken.
Although Guinness Zero came out and they had it at the Celt for St. Patrick's Day, and Guinness Zero, well, you're either going to, if you love Guinness, you'll like Guinness Zero, and if you don't like Guinness, you won't because it tastes just like Guinness. And it's not on draft; it's only in the keg cans, but it pours like a Guinness, it looks like a Guinness, it tastes like a Guinness. If anything, the mouth feels a little thinner than Guinness. But other than that, I for St. Patrick's Day, I drank Guinness Zero all day. Me and the owner from the Celt stand were drinking it. And they were like, "Oh, we're all out of it," and there was still like a 4-pack, and I'm like, I could see them in the fridge. I'm like, "That's Stan's stash, isn't it?" And they were like, "Yeah, kind of." And Stan was sitting there. The owner's like, "No, he can have one."
Well, and I think that's kind of the interesting thing about making really good craft beer that tastes good, but you don't have to have the alcohol that's going to get you hammered. Yeah,
I've actually been studying how to brew it. So I'm going to be brewing sometime this summer. I'm going to be brewing a non-alcoholic Pilsner. And there's like a lot of different ways to brew a non-alcoholic beer, but the one I found that's the best is mashing in hot, like at over 160 degrees. So you get all alpha amylase, which are harder sugars to break down, and then having a very small grain bill. And then there's a yeast from White Labs that's WLP 603. Don't ask me to pronounce the name; it's weird. But it only attenuates 20% of the sugars, where most ale yeasts are going to ferment 70 to 80% of the sugars. So if you have a beer that's, say, a starting gravity of 1016, you'll end up with a final gravity of 1012. So you'll still have nice gravity. You'll still have a good final gravity. You'll still have that mouthfeel, but you're only going to have like somewhere between 0.04 and 0.06% alcohol. So I'm making a Pilsner that way this summer to test out the theory and to test it, put it into practice and see if I can still make a good tasting beer. We're going to do a Pilsner, a traditional German Pilsner, but then we're going to dry hop it with hop oils to give it a little punch of aroma.
Well, all right. That sounds like a great summer project. And I would definitely like to hear more about that. And we do give you homebrew tips on this show from the Brewing Sailor.
Yeah, and you can always just tweet me at the Brewing Sailor or follow me it's on Twitter, it's at Brewing Sailor. On Instagram, it's the Brewing Sailor. You can find me on either place if you have questions or you're I get something wrong and you are a home brewer and you want to correct me on it, or you want to get into it and don't know how, reach out to me and I'll help you out.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody for listening to our show today. And we hope you jump on the Nerd Oscars and we have a bigger year next year with more categories, nominees, and stuff like that. So
next year, you know what we should do next year? Next year, instead of just making it a Saturday show, we should make it a special done on a different night. Bring in Alex, bring in a couple of the other members of the staff. Don't do any other topics and just do this.
Well, there was something that was talked about, and that was unfortunately my fault because my print company had to increase prices. It's been very, very hectic this past month, and we just didn't have the time. But hopefully we're getting back into the swing of things going into April and this summer. So, all right. But anyway, we're going to close this out. It is time to say goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Take care, guys.